Ange, do you have any fresh injury concerns ahead of the Nottingham Forest game? And in particular, is Brennan Johnson okay to face his former club?
Yeah, Brennan's fine. He's no problem. The only one is Richie. He's had a bit of a niggle with his knee the last couple of weeks, and we kind of feel he probably better he takes this weekend off and sort of hopefully totally recovers and be available for Newcastle next. But everyone else is fine.
West Ham's equaliser, of course, came from a set piece. I just wondered how much of a concern, or is that something that you're looking at in training, working on specifically in training, trying to reduce the number of goals that you're conceding from set pieces?
Yeah, look, I don't think we've been. I think we've been pretty good at set pieces. I mean, you always get every goal you concede is down to something. It was a decent delivery the other night, and they got some big guys. The rest of the set piece, I thought we handled really well. I thought we gave away too many corners. I think that was an issue for us when you do against a team like West Ham, who are such a big side physically, and they got such great delivery with Bowen and Ward-Prowse. You're asking for trouble. So I thought again that was part of the game. We thought we could have handled a bit better, not to give away so many. But I think, I think those kind of things, people just kind of look at snapshot. I mean, our winning goal against Luton came from a defensive corner, our setup. So, I think with all these things, I tend to take a longer term view on them. And for the most part, I think we've been pretty decent.
And finally, for me, obviously you faced Nottingham Forest on Sunday. They're fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table. They got a big win over Fulham in midweek. So what kind of a challenge are you expecting from them on Sunday?
Yeah, massive. As you said, they're fighting for every point, every goal. And I think you would have noticed that across every game, that everyone is fighting for something, whether that's up the top, up the bottom, in the middle. Everyone's fighting for something. And from our perspective, we know that we have to hit a certain level of, effort, competitiveness every week, and for the most part, we've been pretty good. I mean, I think the Fulham game was probably the one that was disappointing for us, but even against West Ham, we weren't pleased with the outcome, but it's a difficult place to go. They're a very well organised side, and it wasn't through lack of effort that we didn't get what we needed, and it's going to be the same on the weekend. For Forest, like I said, everything for them is crucial at the moment. So they're not going to come here and just give us anything. We're going to have to earn everything, and be up to us to do it.
Angelo, Brennan Johnson going up against his former club Forest, and I just wondered how he's developed. I was just looking since January. He's got 5 goals, including 1 for Wales, and what sort of changed? How have you converted him into being more lethal, really, since you signed him in August?
Well, I think we've made him more lethal. I think, his goal scoring record before he arrived to us was pretty decent. I just think, we play obviously a little bit differently, and it takes time, and especially in those front areas, I've said before that there's a lot more pressure on new signings because they get invariably measured against, outcomes in terms of goals and assists, and if you don't have that, then... But his general play was always, still very good for us, but what I think now he's found a bit of confidence and a bit of consistency in both an understanding of the way we play, and like I said, he's getting the rewards, which is great, but, he's still a young guy, and, we bought him with very much an eye that, whatever he does this year, we know there's a lot more in him, and when you see improvement, that kind of encourages us even more, because it means that if we invest the time in him, he's going to become a super player for us.
One thing as well, some fans want to see against low blocks players taking more shots from range, and I'm just wondering. I know this
you're just wondering if that's how I coach. Or
No.
Do a poll amongst supporters and say, "What do you reckon we need this?"
No. This is a very niche question, but I just mean like in a game model like yours, is that just like a side point? Is that something you would ever talk about against a certain team? There will be spaces. Can we have more shots from distance rather than that kind of more intricate way of playing?
Okay. Yeah, so are my players allowed to shoot?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They get fined if they shoot.
I get that. You probably would have had that. Yes, they're allowed to shoot. Yeah. No, look, it's. As I said the other night, there was some opportunities there that we probably, we kind of rushed things in terms of the way we could create more opportunities for ourselves. But again, I always think those kind of things are just a moment in time. I think if you look at the goals we've scored this year, I can remember at least 2 or 3, Sonny in particular, scoring from outside the box. So it's not something that You know, there's no, especially in that front third, a lot of it is around the quality of your players and the instinctiveness on your players. And all the teams I've had, I try and make it as less structured in that front third as possible. But you always, I think, achieve better outcomes or more possibilities, more avenues to goal, because ultimately that's what my teams want to do, score goals, and they always have, is, you know, by creating some sort of fluency that allows players to make the best decisions in there.
Hi, Ange, how are you?
I'm good, mate.
Just going back a little bit to the financial stuff you're talking about just now, and budgets, and looking forward to maybe bringing players in the summer. Spurs, one of the only teams that actually spent money during the January transfer window, and clubs generally were watching very carefully what they were spending. Thoughts the Premier League going to have new financial rules and maybe not take points off teams that go over it, but maybe a financial penalty. Is that the way forward regarding clubs maybe spending more money and adding more quality to their squads?
I reckon you're as kind of intricately sort of, your understanding is about as good as mine with that question, in terms of what's happening. Look, I understand that, you know, obviously there's, and I come from a world where it has been very, very regulated. So equalisation in Australia, a bit like American sports, is very, very big. Yeah. So I've come from that world, and I didn't like it one bit. But there's always an understanding you've got to sort of create some sort of competitive balance so that, you know, there isn't too much of a divide between, you know, clubs that, you know, can spend, you know, at random almost at times against clubs that have restrictions. So you want to keep that balance, but I've always felt not at the expense of bringing the, you know, or demotivating people from being the best they can be. And sometimes I've felt, so in Australia we've had, you know, a salary cap, and we've had, you know, I think a bit similar to what they're calling a luxury tax, and it keeps the competition even, yeah, but I always felt it also suppressed the ability to kind of, you know, maybe try and be better than the rest. Yeah, America's kind of similar, but I think whatever model they come up with, you know, it's that balance of keeping it competitive, because you do want competitive leagues. You don't want teams just to outspend and win things, but at the same time not suppress that ability for excellence, you know, because I've always said it's not just about having money, it's how you spend it, you know, and you can spend, I can have half the money somebody else does, and if I spend it better, I can still beat them, you know, so it's that balance, but for you and me, mate, we'll leave that to the financial people. We'll talk about the football.
Okay, we'll finish this section with James, please.
Hi, Ange. Sorry, just back on the financials. The club did announce a loss of 86 million. It's obviously, you know, big number. I mean, will that have a big impact on your transfer plans this summer?
See, now you're getting into the detail, mate. You're dragging me down. And as I said, my discussions around those kind of issues are not the minutiae of a balance sheet. It's about us planning to build a side that potentially can be successful. So that's what we're doing. And nothing that's going to come out in the balance sheet is going to disrupt those plans, because those plans are done in alliance with the people who make the balance sheets, for want of a better word. But, you know, it's not like, oh, we're going to wait for the financial results before we start thinking about who we're going to sign. All this stuff's already in planning, and we kind of know what position we're in, and, you know, what we need to do in the summer. Doesn't mean it's all going to come to fruition, of course, because, you know, there's all sorts of things, that other factors that come into it. But, you know, our planning's well underway into what we need to do. And but, you know, there's no doubt that from our perspective, we're not one of the clubs that are going to be as restricted as others.
You've spoken a lot about the evolution of the team being more important than just getting into the Champions League. But is there not a financial pressure, though, to qualify, given it does give clubs a big jump in revenue? Yeah.
But it doesn't guarantee anything. I keep saying it. I don't know why people don't understand.
Well, I'm talking about the financial aspect.
Yeah, okay. So if I asked you, well, Newcastle made the Champions League this year. Did it help them last year? Did it help them this year?
Financially, it did. Yeah.
But did it help them in a football? We're not banks. We're football clubs. Yeah, we're not financial institutions. I don't get measured by the balance sheet at the end of the year. I get and you can see how difficult it is for a club to juggle Champions League and if you're not building a squad. And to be fair to Eddie, he's had horrendous injuries this year. It makes it hard. What I'm saying is, Champions League, great, money, great. Does that mean we're going to finish third next year? No. In fact, it's probably going to be more challenging. So my role in that is not to worry about the financial pressure of making Champions League, is to create a squad that hopefully can compete in the Champions League and keep improving in the Premier League and have success in the cup competition. So that's kind of where I differentiate. I'm not saying that, of course, everyone wants to, if they're not going to win the league, get into the Champions League because, like you said, the financial rewards, but that's not the measure. How much money you make is not why you get into the Champions League. It's what you do with that money, and do you build on it? Do you build a squad, or you just say, well, because we're in the Champions League next year will be great?
It's the money the point I'm making is the money that comes with it. It gives you the chance to build and pursue perhaps a more aggressive plan or do it more quickly because of that money's there to then go and use it. I'm not saying the Champions League by itself is a success.
Okay, so were we in the Champions League this year?
No.
No. So did we progress this year?
Yeah.
Yes. So again, we're saying the same thing, is you can do it with, you can do it without. It comes down to good decision making, good coaching, good players, good administration. It's when you fall into the trap of thinking that money is the answer that you don't get the outcome. So, I could have sat here this year and said, well, look, we don't have Champions League, we don't have Champions League's money, so how can I progress? I never said that. I said, we've got to make progress. We've got to be better than we were last year. So if we're not in the Champions League next year, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, we can't progress because we're not. Yeah. So I think we're both saying the same thing, but I'm just saying that I don't think it's as big a part of it as people make out. The money it's a significant part of it, but it's definitely not all of it.